for his art.
I seem to sometimes follow Gene around. I'm now hosting Saturday morning, and my series Midday came out of The New Yorkers, Mr. Henderson's New York, and Gene's Hell of a Town. We must have had on the show all of the celebrities of the last dozen years.
I would say...
I don't deny it.
I used to do a lot of live television.
I need to do more running.
I don't feel differently about myself.
I will respond with the same sophistication.
I look forward to today.
I never think in terms of that.
Do you feel good? Ich bin euer conférencier.
I can't tell you anything about it.
I never met her.
I had nice friends.
I will raise my hands up in a victory sign, and in my head, I turn those boos into cheers.
Well, my show, too, was a product of the 60s, which I shared with a gentleman who'd started on Channel 5 a few years before, Mike Wallace. PM East had some regulars, 2 kids. One was called Barbara Streisand, and the other was called Woody Allen.
Well, you mean they
and
were just regular guests?
Yes, they'd come on about once a week, twice a week if they could fit it in between, you know, being down in the village. I did a show one night. I had Mickey Rooney, and I said, could Barbara come? So it was Mickey Rooney, Barbara, and I was the host. Well, that, Barbara and Mickey. Hey, Mickey, I mean, we should go to Rome, she said. I mean, me with my nose and you with your, well, were you always that height?
And looking back in the 1956, here's Mike Wallace.
A little under 4 years ago, a junior copywriter in Esquire magazine's promotion department quit in a huff after he was refused a $5 raise. And that refusal turned out to be one of the worst decisions ever made at Esquire because the name of that copywriter was Hugh Hefner. He is now the editor and publisher of Playboy magazine, which claims to have pushed Esquire right out of first place as the magazine for American men. Just how did Hugh Hefner start Playboy? What kind of a magazine is it? What kind of a man is Hugh Hefner? Stay tuned.
Here at CBS, or ABC, or NBC, you somehow don't have the same license to try. In other words, if you're on the network, it's got to be pretty good. You're in the major leagues. When you're at a Channel 5, for instance, and back in the 1950s, there was a sense of innovation. People were willing to try something to find out if it worked. So we experimented with the news, and in the same way, when we decided to jettison the 11 o'clock news and put Nightbeat in its place, that was not to put too fine a point on it, it was a kind of pioneering undertaking. For instance, nowadays this shot, this close-up, warts and all shot, doesn't bother people excessively. May not be the best-looking shot in the world, but it doesn't offend people. Back in those days, it was revolutionary. There was talk, of course, that we were being self-consciously sensational. But sensational is not necessarily a bad word. If the sensation is seriously undertaken.
You don't think that there's anything that is morally destructive in anything that is in Playboy magazine?
Well, you're...
Pictures of nude women in suggestive and provocative poses, dirty, out-and-out dirty jokes. You don't think that this is at all a bad influence on a 10 to 16-year-old young man or young woman?
I don't think you'll find what I would consider to be dirty jokes in the magazine.
Oh, sir. I'll give I'll give you a book, chapter, and verse, but I wouldn't dare.
You have a problem here.
Yes, yes. I think that's hedging a good deal.
Well, you know, people are still saying the same thing to Hugh Hefner. Let's get into talking a little bit about the Friends of series.
It was a bunch of people who know each other, and it was a conversation among friends because the cameras were not in evidence.
There's nothing wrong with any president trying to gain control.
No, that's right, and there are probably very good reasons.
And there are those who say yes. That,
I would say yes, that it should be done.
Well, I think that the great untold story of the Nixon-Ford administrations was the battle of the president, either Nixon or Ford, particularly Nixon and Kissinger, in order to gain control, political control, over the intelligence agencies.
Channel 5 here was our flagship station for the Nixon interviews, which was an unforgettable experience all around. And luckily we were able to peel off more layers than anyone had anticipated of that curious, enigmatic Nixon character. There's more layers, in fact, than we expected. Parts of the interviews, of course, were gentler, drawing him out about the trip to China and so on, and then some of them were tougher. As he described it, prosecution and defense at times.
I mean, if I try and rob a bank and fail, that's no defense. I still tried to rob a bank. I would say you still tried to obstruct justice and succeeded for that period.
The case for the defense here is this. You use the term obstruction of justice. You perhaps have not read the statute with regard to obstruction of justice. The statute doesn't require just an act. The statute has the specific provision. One must corruptly impede a judicial...
Well, a corrupt
matter.
Endeavor is enough.
All right. Was an endeavor, corrupt intent, but it must be corrupt. And that gets to the point of motive. One must have a corrupt motive. Now, I did not have a corrupt motive.
And one of the earliest exponents of open discussions, from whom we all took a page, is David Susskind.
We've done so many shows, and we've covered virtually every subject under the sun. Now, our reasons for picking a subject are simple. Is it interesting? Is it entertaining? Can we be informative? We're going to show you just 2 examples of the wide range of subjects and guests. The first, a solo interview with former President Harry S. Truman, which we taped in September of 1961.
I wanted to ask you a really personal question.
Shoot.
In the pre-convention days of 1960, the last convention of the Democratic Party, did you ever contemplate running yourself, the presidency?
No. If I'd want to run for the presidency, I've done it in 1952 when I quit. I quit because I thought I'd made the contribution, all the contribution that I could make for the welfare of the country. I had been in the Senate for 10 years, had been in politics at home for at least 10 or 12 years, and when you've been in that routine for 38 or 40 years, it's about time for you to quit and do something else and give somebody else a chance. You know what the trouble is with these old birds that hang on to their offices and don't give the youngsters a chance to come on? They keep people from being educated to run the government of the United States, and it's not right.
Now, the second clip is an excerpt from what has become a classic, How to Be a Jewish Son, with the inspired Mel Brooks.
If you meet a Jewish girl and shake her hand, that's dinner. You owe her dinner. Huh? If you should take her home after dinner and rub around and kiss in the doorway, right? That's already a small ring, a ruby, something. If, God forbid, anything filthy should happen amongst you, that's marriage and the same grave. Jewish ladies expect a lot.
For a little.
They do expect a lot, and they deserve a lot, because they're short-waisted and terrific in bed.
We'll be right back.
This booklet, the Grand Union Price Finder, helped you find the lowest regular supermarket prices. It has no specials in it, but this new Red Dot Special Price Finder has all the specials in your Grand Union, hundreds of them. Don't wait for weekly newspaper ads. Don't wonder if you'll miss the best specials. Get a free Red Dot Special Price Finder. Check your shopping list with it and save. Grand Union proves low regular prices in the regular price finder and now gives you all their special prices in the Red Dot Special Price Finder. ShopRite and Pathmark don't do it. Grand Union does.
The world. The events in it shape our destinies. 2, 1. And the reporting of these events shape our thoughts.
Palestinian woman finds her son.
The newscasters of the Channel 5 10 o'clock news team respect this tremendous responsibility.
In Grenada, that the decision
So we report the news the way you deserve to hear it. Without sugarcoating, without distraction, with detail, with professionalism. The 10 o'clock news. We give it to you straight.
A brand new season on Too Close for Comfort starts October 1st.
Channel 5, 40 years of fine-tuning Channel 5.
It seems appropriate to talk about the news on its own set. 40 years ago, WABD's news department was one man, Sam Cuff, who was also the program manager. For some years after, Sam, an announcer, would just read the wire copy stories, sometimes with a little film or a couple of still pictures. Dumont didn't have the background and resources of a radio network. No Edward R. Murrow in wartime London or H.V. Kaltenborn in Washington. But slowly, an expertise and a style did develop.
Shall it continue?
First, it was the Kefauver hearings with Frank Costello.
I refuse to answer.
Then the Army McCarthy hearings, day after fascinating day covered by WTTG, the Dumont station in Washington.
The answer is no. You will not get that information. You wish then to put your own interpretation on your own, tell us less than the whole truth? Mr. Welch, I think I've made it very clear to you that neither you nor anyone else will ever get me to violate the confidence of loyal people in this government who give me information about communist infiltration.
The major innovation in Channel 5's coverage came in March 1967, when the 10 o'clock news began.
This is Christopher Jones, Metro Media, Moscow. The funeral of Yuri Andropov was held today on a cold, clear afternoon under a bright sun.
Long before we actually arrived in guerrilla territory, we began to feel the atmosphere of El Salvador.
We started our walk at about 9 o'clock last night, and we walked until 10 o'clock this morning, which was just a few minutes ago when we arrived here. This is a rebel-held military outpost.
At first, the authorities limited their firing to tear gas in an effort to drive the students back. But that failed, as did rubber bullets. Then the Israelis started shooting at the students, not over their heads. And for all but 4 hours of the early afternoon, the residents of this city, Hebron, were told they would have to stay off the streets, inside their homes.
Is it revolution or is it hooliganism? There are many in Northern Ireland, Catholic and Protestant alike, who see this kind of destructive violence as nothing more than wild kids taking any opportunity they can get to strike out at any symbol of authority.
Did he try to rob you?
Yeah.
What happened?
Three of them came in there.
Yeah.
And he pulled a sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah.
That's all.
This is the shotgun right here?
Right.
Is this the first time you've ever shot anyone?
Yep.
Huh?
Yep.
What hit you on the head?
One of them punched me. Three of them got after me.
Yeah.
When I went after him.
Thursday, the 14th of July, the day after the night of Black Wednesday, the 13th. Good evening, I'm Bill Jorgensen, and this is the 10 o'clock news.
We're now inside the Bronx House of Detention. We're in the North Wing. This is a dormitory area. You're going to see the type of real concern that there was here for an escape.
Health Department officials say the cold weather is a blessing. They say it'll keep the garbage from deteriorating too quickly. In the meantime, the city has contingency plans standing by. John Miller, Channel 5 News.
As far as the police were concerned, the confrontation couldn't have come at a worse time when thousands of working hard hats were on their lunch break and clearly in no mood to entertain the jeers and the taunts of the demonstrators. They beat a chilling cadence on the pavement with crude weapons, spanner wrenches, pieces of pipe, and steel rods.
The lines swelled at many service stations, and motorists drove north and west of the city in search of available gas. On East Houston Street, the line ran 7.5 blocks, and motorists had to wait up to 3 hours.
The moment some had been waiting for 2 hours. A burst of cheers like a bottle uncorked. The rally for more than 20,000 here at Madison Square Garden was billed as Youth in Concert with Pope John Paul II.
addition to co-anchoring the 10 o'clock news, I'm the anchor and executive producer of Channel 5's Black News. The program was created back in 1970 to deal with the lack of positive exposure of blacks in the media. The program is designed